I don't think there's a scenario where AI could ever go through and just replace the quality of in-person
Correct.
one-on-one relationships. I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing.
There's data that as humans, we need interaction, and virtual interaction isn't going to satisfy that need. We need physical interaction. I don't mean necessarily touching, but sitting across the table from somebody and seeing the body language and being in a physical location. We need that.
Yeah.
We need that connection.
I think everybody at this point has had a little bit of exposure with AI.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is the craziest AI story that you have heard so far in your experience with it?
Yeah. I think the one that is the craziest, the one that concerns me the most has to do with self-driving cars.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's heard or seen on the news some strange things. And by the way, I say this, I've done some study on this, listened to some podcasts. The self-driving cars are overwhelmingly statistically safer than people-driven cars so far. So
Okay.
I say that as a context. But there was a instance in Wuhan, China, where 100 self-driving cars, all controlled by the same system, they had a system software issue, and they all stopped exactly where they were out in traffic in Wuhan, China. 100 cars. So in the middle of intersections, stopped at stoplights, wherever they were, they just stopped. And so there were large traffic jams, of course, with this because people couldn't get around. The interesting thing, too, is the people inside the cars were locked inside the cars. And it took about 2.5 hours to get the software issue figured out. And there wasn't a good way to get them out of the cars due to the software issue. So I just imagine myself, if I'm in a car, it's uncomfortable to be in a traffic situation that's causing a lot of problem.
Right.
But then for 2.5 hours, I can't get out of this car.
Oh, yeah.
So I just made a mental note. I have yet to take a self-driven taxi, a Waymo or something
Yes.
like that. But I will check if there isn't a way for me to get out of the car when I want to get out of the car.
That's
I
right.
won't be getting in one of those until I can. So that, to me, that's just crazy.
It seems like every week there's a new application for AI.
There
It's
is.
just the rapid acceleration of its growth potential is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of the baseline for our conversation today is, where can we turn to AI?
Mm-hmm.
Where should we turn to AI? And maybe where should we draw the line in using AI to help make decisions in our life? That's a big thing.
Right. My general answer, and we're going to talk about a couple of different applications, but my general answer would be that AI is a provider of information and perspective, and that we will still own the final decision.
It's hard to gauge where those decisions should and shouldn't be influenced by AI.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do believe it is a game changer, just like VisiCalc was a game changer.
Yep.
I can talk about that, or Excel,
Yep.
or the internet when it came along, or cell phones were game changers. This is even beyond that, a game changer.
Right.
But again, it will have an application to us. It won't replace our ability to discern or make decisions.
And I'm glad you say that, because I think the audience, as well as myself included, I think it could be the general population, the fear of replacement.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And what comes alongside that is kind of the question of, how much trust should we put in that?
Mm-hmm.
And where should we put our trust in that? And so I think a fun activity for you and I here today, we're not game show hosts, so to speak, but I think a cool activity for us would be to list out some scenarios where AI could help us.
Yeah.
And just kind of talk about, would we trust AI in these situations?
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Is there a question or a topic that you have in mind?
So let's start more worldly, so to speak. Would you let AI manage your finances?
Here's an example. I'll put it into real words because I've done this work before. So let's say that you have some money to invest.
Okay.
You've gotten to that position. You have some money to invest, and you're trying to figure out where to invest that.
Right.
I think using AI to start with a broad range of ideas and then narrow in on what are some opportunities, and doing some research on those opportunities is a fantastic way to use the tool.
Okay.
Would I let AI take money out of my account
Oh,
and put it into one of those investment ideas that it came up with? No, not on its
yeah.
own. Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Now there could be someday where, a portion of your portfolio, you might be willing to do that. Today, it's not evolved to the point, but to get it down to a number of things that I could go research more deeply and continue to use it to research. Yeah, it's a phenomenal tool.
Yeah, and that would be cool. The first thing I thought of with AI would be kind of creating a budgeting device.
Yeah.
That's where my mind went of, hey, I have this much. How best, and how best can I ration it out
Yes.
to achieve blank, blank, and blank
Yep.
dreams, So as somebody who hopefully in the near future can put a down payment on a house, it's like, how can I maximize my current spending
Yes.
to help save for that?
Yep. Yeah. What you want to find is some margin in your budget,
Right.
some space in your budget that allows you to have a buffer to start saving or, doing whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're spending exactly what you're taking in. So yeah, from a financial standpoint, using AI to analyze information. I have a friend who's purchasing rentals, he's kind of into that. So he's using AI to evaluate specific properties of, here's the information on this property. Here's what it sold for. Here's the history. Here's what they're asking, all kinds of data. What's a fair price for this? And knowing I want to get this kind of rate of return. So yeah, but the final decision of whether to purchase that's his decision,
Right.
given the information that he has. Yeah.
And I suppose that could be applicable not just to buying a house. It could be to, vacationing.
Mm-hmm.
You could have ChatGPT or Claude or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
They could be your own travel agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, unless you think differently, I think that analyzing certain financial information, AI, I think that's a thumbs up. I
Absolutely.
think we're good to go on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So our next one gets into the story you had at the top of the show. Would you allow AI to drive you and your family?
Eventually, yes. I do think from what I've read, what I've listened to, which isn't a lot, so maybe I've spent 8 hours on this topic, total. It is statistically safer, just because of the variation in human driving.
Yes.
And the distractions, et cetera. I think there's a lot of opportunity for productivity, for some people. I think for people who are have a physical challenge that doesn't allow them to drive or qualify for a driver's license, there's huge opportunities. If you're legally blind or have some impairment that just doesn't allow you to operate a car, that there's big opportunities there. So the answer is yes. The reason I say it depends is because in our area of the country, it's still a developing technology, and in most areas. So where it's happening now is in big cities for short trips.
Yep.
Specific, lots of data on the layout of the city, the traffic patterns, et cetera. When you get into outside of that situation, it's still being proven out.
Right. And it's evolving quicker in areas where, like you said, they have more data and there's areas where there's less unforeseen circumstances that would throw AI into a situation that it may or may not handle according to a human moral code,
Right.
And that's kind of my biggest fear with letting AI drive is like a scenario where a accident is inevitable. Would AI sacrifice the health of the car and the individuals inside and harm them to protect the person outside, or vice versa? Would it protect the person inside and harm the person outside?
Right.
And regardless of what the individual's moral stance is on which decision to make there, the freedom to choose has been taken away. And so I think that's the biggest concerning point for me. And like you said, we might get to a point where we can confidently remove 99.999% of those incidents from happening, but just the fear of that is my current holdup. And so I think I'm in the same boat as you are, where I'm kind of at that point where it's like, not yet. Our third one. Would you allow AI to speak and make decisions on your behalf? If so, where?
Where? Yeah. So for instance, there's some workflows now, simple emails. That's a great workflow that's becoming easy for AI to manage. There's a person I was helping. She's an employee in a small company and in a purchasing department, and gets about 150 emails a day. There's probably an opportunity to reduce that, so we have to get into that. But she just physically struggles coming in the morning to decide what's the priority. And so right now, based on some parameters, it's pretty easy to set up a workflow to say, out of the 150, here's the 10 that you should pay attention to, right when you come in. And it's pretty good at that. And then it will also suggest a response to those 10. So I've culled it down. I've got a suggested response I'm reading through. And if I want to, I can just click send, or I can do some quick edits. If I want to change the way it sounds, I can change the tone. So if I feel like it's too abrupt and it's not representing how I would answer that, I can dial the tone back, and then that's what it'll do. So, when I get into what I let it speak for me, now in that particular case, it's still, for her, she still wants the ability to hit the send button.
Yep.
She doesn't want it. Yep. It can be automated to just go ahead and send them, if she wants to get to that point. So on that level, yes. Would I have it handle a phone conversation with my wife when I'm traveling and we're going to touch base that evening?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that quite yet, with my voice and everything, but the answer to that is no. I would personally want to be in that conversation. I think there's levels of automation, and at a very basic level, I think the answer could be yes, but at a higher level, no.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat, where I'm not in a position where I'm overwhelmed with so many responses to get back to, and quite frankly, I think there's a lot of value in, even if it's not face-to-face, making it so that I have critically thought out my response. I have taken the time of day to read it. And that maybe that's just the position I'm in, where I have that luxury of time. Some people, especially if it's work-related, I think this is more not work-related, but just being able to take the time to actually go through, discern it myself, I think there's a human care and just an attention to detail there, where I may, in some cases, end up with a similar response that was prompted by ChatGPT or AI. But if it's, I would like to arrive at that decision, if that makes sense.
So one of the areas that AI is used that we haven't talked about yet is recommending a friend or even a potential life partner. Like dating apps are using AI. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you I have 0 dating apps on my phone, and it's not because I'm in a relationship. So as someone who is single, but not using dating apps, there is a challenge meeting new people. But just kind of I don't know if you would call it a moral code, just kind of my thought process is that the right person would find me. And so I'm not in any rush to go out and, try and filter through a bunch of potential partners and
make it happen.
Yeah. And if I was in that space, maybe I would use it as a filter, but nothing is going to replace the idea in my head of crossing paths in a natural setting. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's like delusional of me in today's world.
Old school romantic.
Well,
don't get sappy when it happens.
Don't get sappy on me now.
No, I would agree. I do think there's value in there's dating apps that narrow the field, but like we talked in a previous episode, you still have to go out and meet the person, and have a conversation and an interaction, and make that decision of whether or not this is somebody that you could see spending the rest of your life with. And I would tell you too, just the other perspective, coming up on 35 years of marriage now, no matter what you decide at the beginning, things are going to change anyway. And so it's going to require work. So whatever algorithm you use to make a choice in the beginning, that's just a point in time. And there's no way to project 30, 35, 50 years down the road how things are going to change. And that's where the work comes in.
I think with this one, you and I are both in agreement that AI cannot replace going out and doing it.
Correct.
Yes. And I think we've kind of, with the scenarios that we brought forth in this episode, it's kind of been, it's great at setting the table, but not implementing yet.
Correct.
You know, and maybe some of that changes down the line. Who knows? But I think the main thing, and us here on the CrossRoads podcast are big in, relationships.
Right.
I don't think there's a scenario where AI could ever go through and just replace the quality of in-person,
correct,
one-on-one relationships. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, you're spot on. And there's data too. We could get into that in a different episode, but there's data that as humans, we need interaction, and virtual interaction isn't going to satisfy that need. We need physical interaction. I don't mean necessarily touching, but sitting across the table from somebody and seeing the body language and being in a physical location, we need that. We need that connection. And we're seeing that now coming out of COVID, where people have work from home jobs that they can go days without interacting with another human being.
Yeah.
And they're struggling. They don't feel fulfilled. They feel depressed, et cetera. So you're right. It doesn't replace the relationship.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm very glad for the time that we have to sit down and have these kinds of conversations.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if you guys enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe. Comment down below what you would do in these different AI scenarios that we placed on our topic list today. And with that being said, we thank you guys for watching, and we hope you guys tune in next time.